Good morning, and this is Morning Real. If I see it, I review it. This is a 3 to 4 to 100 minute or so podcast of films that I review from all ages to rated X. I haven't rated a rated X film, but I would say Zack and Mary Make a Porno. I would almost consider it an X rated film or rated X or whatever. Anyways, I am here to not talk about that. I'm here to talk about a film called Flow. It's Latvian for Strome. It's a 2024 animated fantasy adventure film directed by Gints Zilbalodis and written by Gints Zilbalodis and Matisse Kaza. This is a 3D, computer generated film. The voices that you hear in this film are from actual animals, except for the capybara. The sound that they used for the capybara was like a baby camel. So that's interesting. Yeah, the director didn't want to use the actual sound of a capybara because it has a very screech, high-pitched type of noise. And honestly, if he probably used it probably would have sounded like a horror film or something. This film, it's of its own kind. It features nothing but a couple of animals, really. I mean, animals, period. But you have a central cast of characters of a little pack of different kinds of animals. You got a gray-black cat. You got a capybara. You have a secretariat bird or secretary bird. You have a dog, kind of like a golden retriever of sorts. And you have that one dude from... what do you call that one movie with Chris Rock? He plays a zebra. Well, yeah, that guy. A ringtail lemur. Either way, this film is very interesting because there's no dialogue. It's all sound. The actions speak for its own self. And honestly, like, when you look at these animals react to each other, to their own selves, it's almost lifelike. I can't say it's completely lifelike, but this is a fictional film. I feel like the director, Zilbalodis, did his best to be as realistic as possible, but at the same time, he gives you a touch of fantasy. The fantasy genre, where some type of outside source that is completely unreal to our dimension of what we perceive as reality comes into play and pushes the story forward, But these animals, they carry the story. You get to see their personalities just by how they interact with each other. I like that. The lemur is very possessive, very zen in a way, kind of unpredictable almost, but very zen and possessive. And I mean, they're all aware about what's around them, but I think the lemur, most of them all, the lemur sees what life is like they have their own societies of sorts, very interesting. Black cat, curious, intuitive, and brave. Man, I swear, this is a fictional animated film. Like, what you see is there's nothing that's real about it, but you feel for these animals, you feel for these characters, and no humans made these sounds, I mean, we recorded them, added some mixing and mastering and all that stuff, but these animals did the work and they created all kinds of sounds for all kinds of situations, even if most were not used. But it's incredible that we can do something like that. It's incredible that Zilbalodis decided to make a film like that. I commend him a lot. He used Blender, for God's sakes. That's really awesome. He's nominated for an Academy Award for Best Animated Feature and I believe Best International Film, if I'm not mistaken. And I haven't seen the other animated films in the selection of the Academy Awards, but I'm rooting for this film. It's really good. It's very plain and simple, this plot. It's a post-human, post-apocalyptic world where, in a sense, animals were put on a pedestal. They were almost like treated like gods almost, because you see these sort of like man-made monuments or man-generated monuments of animals, especially of a cat in particular. And it's funny because this cat, and I think it's the main character. There's no name for this character. It's just the black cat. I think it notices that this monument is something that resembles who this cat looks like without even knowing it in a weird way. It's kind of weird. There's a lot of reflection in this film, in the figurative sense, in a literal sense. You have the lemur who carries this mirror, and it's like one of the most powerful things in the film. It shows some type of how we would perceive as humanity-ish type of behavior, where when we look at ourselves, we really look at ourselves, we really notice all the imperfections, all the things that we don't like about our bodies. About our face. And this animal, every time it looks at itself, it's just so surprised and intrigued about what this thing looks like. And in that very moment, I suppose, not that it took a mirror to do it, but it pretty much solidified that this thing knows it's alive. This thing knows has a conscience, that it's completely real in a sense. It's kind of hard to explain, but I hope you get the drift, because to look at ourselves, to reflect, we think about a lot of things in our life, a lot of things that are happening, and what's literally happening right in front of us, which is our own self. And sometimes we nitpick our own selves. We look at our faces and we're like, oh man, just another thing to like kind of, cringe about, for most of us, right? We have our moments. I love the ending of the film, but later on in the film, these animals survive in a boat and they just sail. They don't know where they're sailing, but they're sailing. The secretary bird is very very forward about things, very controlling in a sense, not possessive, but controlling. Like it thinks it knows what it's doing and where it's going, right? But we don't really know. All these personalities, they all work with each other, and they all go through different spaces of land where we would think how it would look like if it weren't flooded and submerged by water. It's crazy how things work like that. But it's, again, the fantasy sense of the film. What's happening? What happened to the humans? Well, shoot, I guess humans drowned, or humans just eventually ended its own species, its own living species, and all that was left is these animals, especially this black cat, And again, you gotta give it to this black cat. There is a moment in this film where the water was just rising and rising, and honestly, when you look at the film and you realize, like, holy crap, like this, like, water just came out of nowhere and literally rose the sea level, because I don't know how high those monuments are, but honestly, they just look scary tall. I'm talking like maybe 4 stories tall, 3 to 4 stories tall, like your typical skyscraper of sorts, or your typical like business building of sorts, like a skyrise of sorts, 3 stories. It's pretty tall, man. It's a lot of water. The cat is trying its best to survive, and it knows that it does not like water. And it knows that the space that's so limited that's surrounding this poor little black cat creature, it's scary, man. It makes you feel like you're about to like be flooded by this water, and like, man, if you were to see this film, that part would scare you the most. It would like make you want to not watch it, because like, if you're afraid of the ocean, damn, look how the ocean is now, dude. It's just like 2 or 3 times bigger than itself. I would give this film a 4 out of 4 tokes. Yeah, a full bar of awesomeness. I had great pleasure watching this film. I liked the animation. I liked how they used the Blender technology to make this film. because, animation itself is an art form, right? And it's nice to see something a little bit incomplete as far as what we look at, and it's funny because the way animals see things, their vision, is completely different from a human being's in every animal, in all kinds of forms. So maybe in some crazy way, because it's known that there are like a bunch of animals out there who actually took like 5 minutes out of their whole cat schedule, dog schedule, what have you, and be engaged into the film. There's multiple reels on the TikToks, on the IGs and all that stuff. It's there. What if that type of visual animation just creates some type of enticement for these animals to lock their eyes on, And not only that, you get to hear the sounds of the animals, which sounds very realistic. Anybody would be fooled. Anything would be fooled, really. 4 out of 4. These animals, man, they embark on the journey. They go to search for land like any smart species would, right? Why would you want to inhabit yourself in water or underwater? Those underwater scenes are pretty cool, man. How the camera shifts, the camera shifts from the underwater level to surface level, and it's a joy to watch. It's very cool what they did, man. I would watch it again just to get more out of it, because it's an easy film to watch, but there are just some things that you wouldn't expect to see in a film like that, especially in animation. It's not catered towards children, really, or maybe like older children. It's more catered to preteens, because I don't know, it just kind of gives off those type of vibes. But it's a universal film. The language of animals is a universal language in itself. You have animals come together from different regions of the world. I don't think they relate. Or at least I don't know. It's a fictional film. It's very spiritual. Things happen in the film where it's just something that's beyond the human level. I think it takes a different type of species, a different type of being to have that privilege maybe of witnessing such spiritual type of events like right before your eyes. It's a lot to put on, especially for anybody to try to understand. I understand it for the most part. I think it's great. I think it's cool to show a perspective of how maybe in some weird way animals could evolve to a level that is very on a human level, because hey man, we've been living with animals since practically almost the dawn of time, you know what I'm saying? And up until this day, we have evolved with animals like cats, dogs, lizards, birds, what have you. It's crazy how it just kind of works. Follow me on Morning Shot Films, IG and YouTube. Check out my website, morningshotfilms.co. On to the next one. Thank you. And go watch this movie. It's available on Max. It's nominated for an Academy Award for Best Animated Film. And hey man, if it doesn't win, it's already won in life. It's got the credit that this director has deserved thus far. And I hope this guy gets many more along the way. Thank you.